Hello,
Oh,
BookTube, and welcome back to Desert Island Books. And I have Brandy here from Bookclectic. See, I knew I'd do that. I did it
you
perfectly.
did
Yeah,
the Bookclectic.
yeah. And so take it away, Brandy. Tell me about your channel.
Okay, well, I read just at least a little bit from almost every single genre except for self-help. So, but the last couple of years, I've really been exploring a lot of horror and thriller. So most of my videos are of those genres right now. But I am moving out of the horror phase. I'm back into my science fiction phase. So there'll be a lot more science fiction from here on. Science fiction is my favorite genre, but it's definitely not my only genre. So.
Okay, and you've selected 8 books to take on the desert island. And as I've said with everybody, it's one island. Everybody's on this island, but it's multidimensional.
Multidimensional.
Yeah.
A lot of parallel universes, or maybe dimensional portals that we're all getting into each different individual island portal.
Yeah. And the thing is too, how do you get there? A 3-hour tour.
Oh, I love that.
There will be no professor and there will be no Marianne.
Can I bring my cat? That's the important thing.
Oh, I don't know. Well, he's a ninja cat, so I suppose he could just show up there at any point.
He could stealth his way through.
Yep.
Okay, so you want me to go ahead and talk about my books?
Yeah, and then we'll just sort of banter back and forth with them, and I'll disparage most of them.
Oh, well, I know that there's one book you're not going to like, sir. Okay, well, the first book you can't say anything about because I know that you have not read it. It's called Stealing the Light by Lisa Hoffman. It is the first book in the Bel-Air series, and I have absolutely no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly because it's Latin. But she is a very talented fantasy writer. She self-publishes, so probably most people seeing this video has not heard of this. But I definitely recommend it. It does not have like a hard magic system. It's sort of I guess what you'd call a soft magic system. I'm not up on all of the latest book terminology, but the magic is almost, well, it's very subtle. It's a subtle kind of magic. There's very distinct magic, but it's subtle. And it's a little bit more fairy tale-ish as opposed to your typical fantasy. It's definitely not epic fantasy. My closest comparison to that would be, let's see. I forgot what it's called now. See, that's what I get for not preparing. Catherine Arden, and the first book is called The Bear and the Nightingale. I forgot the name of that trilogy, but it's comparable to that. Only I think this is actually prettier, and it's longer, and it's got a lot more character growth in it, which is my favorite thing about this, is the characters in this book, especially the female main character. One of the best characters I have ever read, and her writing is beautiful. It reads like poetry. It's gorgeous. So yeah, I definitely don't want to be stranded on a desert island without being able to reread this novel every once in a while. So that was my first choice.
Is it set in the present, the future, the past, or alternate?
It's set on either Earth or an Earth-like world that's not really made clear. But it's about the time of the Inquisition. And magic is sort of fading out from the world, and all of the fairy creatures are sort of either going extinct or making an exodus from this plane. And humans are starting to turn on magic users and the fae. So they're kind of being phased out, essentially. And we follow a girl and a boy. They both start off as children, and by the end of it, they're full-grown adults, kind of locking heads with each other. One turns into a villain and one turns into a hero, essentially, and we get to see the paths they take and how they turn into how they end up in those roles in the book. And it's marvelous. So very well done.
And you say it's the first of a trilogy, right?
Of a quartet. There's 4 books. Yeah, the 4th book's not out yet. Yeah, the 4th book isn't out yet, so I don't know how it concludes, but all 3 books are incredible. Definitely the first one is probably my favorite. So
now you say it's self-published, so is it available like on Amazon? Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you find something like that? Because you know, you just walk into a shop and see it on the shelf.
Right. Well, I was part of a group of writers for a couple of years, and I met several independent writers through that, and she was one of them. So I thought her novel sounded interesting, and another person that I actually played EverQuest 2 with, she was also in the group. She actually told me how good this book was, and so I asked her if where I could find it, and she just sent me a copy. She just sent me a copy for free, and sent me a little thank you card for reading it with a little thank you note and a signature, just in case she's ever famous. So yeah.
Yeah. What else I guess? Oh, what's the author? Say the name again and the author, and if there's if anybody wants it.
Okay, it's Stealing the Light by
Yeah.
Lisa Hoffman. I will tell you, it has a different cover now. The cover has a picture of a young woman on it. She's changed the cover. This is a first edition, or her first publication of it. So the cover does look different, but same name.
Okay, yeah, because I might be able to put it down in the description too, because that's not something that you can just easily. Well, you should be able to find it, as you say.
Yeah, if you type in the name of the book and her name in Amazon, it'll come up. So she's written a number of books now.
Okay,
so, yeah. They're all wonderful.
where is she from? She's in the. Well, I guess if you met her at a writing thing, she is in the States. I guess I take it. That
no, she's in Germany actually, and the group that I was part of was an online group.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
that was a good question to ask. I just assumed that she would have been sort of local in the North American continent. So
no,
she's translated, or is it?
No, she speaks fluent English. Her English is perfect. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that was one of the things that really shocked me, that for someone whose first language is not English, this was superbly written. I couldn't believe it. You can't tell English isn't her first language. Yeah.
Okay. Book number 2, because I can't criticize it. I can't say good or bad.
I know, but when we get to that book, you and I are going to have a talk, sir. We're having a talk. Okay, so my next book is I Am Legend by Richard Mathis, and everybody knows this one, of course.
Really? I've never. I Am Legend?
ShawnDStandfast. Don't make me come over there and get you, sir. I Am Legend. And this book literally broke my heart. It is so sad. And this is probably the one and only book I ever read where the whole book I thought, why is this called I Am Legend? I just thought, well, I felt that like it was called I Am Legend in the very generic sense, until I got to the end. And it was one of those moments where I was mind blown. I was like, oh my goodness. It was so great. This was like one of the best reading experiences I've ever had in my life. I wish I could forget this book and read it again for the first time. It was just, absolutely, I just loved it. Ripped my heart out. The loneliness of the character in this book, he's, as far as he knows, he's the last man on earth. And the loneliness, I mean, it's tangible while you're reading it. I could feel the isolation and the desperation that he feels. And it was marvelous. I don't know about any of his other books, but this one it's brilliant, quite frankly.
Well, he is a great writer. Like, he writes in many genres. He's written westerns, everything for TV. That is a hardcover, isn't it?
Yeah, this is my favorite kind of book, actually. It's the size of a mass market paperback, but it's a hardcover. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And actually, where my blue tab is, that's where I Am Legend ends, and there's some other little short stories in the back, which I've never read. But if I were on a desert island, I would make sure I read them.
Well, he wrote some of the best episodes for the original Twilight Zone. Yeah. Is it a Macmillan, or what's it? Because I was trying to figure out what the
No, it's Tor. It's Tor.
Oh, Tor. Okay.
You can see Tor.
Oh yeah, I can see that there now. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Tor.
Yeah, no, he's quite a prolific writer. Have you ever seen? I'll get to the movie versions in a second. But have you ever seen the Legend of Hellhouse?
Um, I
He
don't think that I have. No.
Okay. Yeah, no, he wrote that as well. Like he's written a lot of stuff. But yeah, so there's 3 movies that have been made from it. There's the original one with
Are you talking about the Hell House or I Am Legend?
I Am Legend with Vincent Price in the 60s. And then there was
Omega Man.
Yeah, Omega Man. I was going to say Soylent Green for some reason because they're sort of similar time. But yeah.
Also a marvelous movie, though.
Yes.
Although I didn't like Omega Man. I thought that was terrible.
It has its place. It has its place.
You know what it is, Sean? You know what Omega Man is? It's a detestable movie.
Well, it could very well have that as an actor, yes. We won't go there. But then there's the newer one with, I always forget his name, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That's all I can...
Will Smith. I actually liked that. It's nothing like the book. I mean, kind of loosely, I guess. But that is a really good movie, I thought.
Yeah, I haven't, that one I haven't seen yet.
I think it's really good.
Yeah. I do like the Omega Man, but for different reasons. But I also like the original one with Vincent Price. It's a very low budget. It's very low budget.
I haven't seen that one, but I love Vincent Price, so I'll probably have to see if I can find that sometime and watch it because I like Vincent Price quite a lot. So
well, we'll have to. I think I figured out something. You can watch stuff and share things on Skype. So we'll have to do that sometime, maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we can. As long as we don't get off again like we did with the Ghost and Mrs. Pure.
Well, that's the thing. But this is the thing. It's like it'll be playing from one computer. So and then the other person.
Rather like than watch or something.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That can work, and because I definitely want to do that. And then maybe we could just go through all 3, right. Even the detestable one.
Yeah, and then I can complain about it through the whole thing and tell you why this movie is detestable.
Yeah, I got a mute button too for the
Oh my. Okay, are we ready for the third book?
Yeah.
Or did you want to talk about Charlton Heston some more?
Well, it's the D word does fit for him perfectly, but I do like him as an actor occasionally.
You know what I actually liked Charlton Heston in? Was it? I forgot what it's called. Spartan or something? Spartacus?
I don't
know. That wasn't Charlton Heston. I'm getting my movies confused.
Ben-Hur?
No, it wasn't Ben-Hur. It was, well, maybe. What was the one where he plays Moses? What was that one called? The Ten Commandments.
That was 10 Commandments, yeah.
Yeah, I liked him in there.
Let my people go.
Yeah, that was a really good movie, actually. And I even didn't mind his whole over-the-top William Shatner style of acting, so.
Yeah, that is, it's got a lot of good actors on it. It's very opulent.
Yeah, it is.
I like the silent version, too. I gotta plug that one. I like
the silent version?
Yeah, and the chariot race is even better.
Really?
Sorry, no, never mind. COVID brain. I'm talking about Ben-Hur. There is a silent 10 Commandments, but it's split between modern times and ancient times. It's not as good.
Gotcha. Now, I believe I've seen that one. So I believe I've seen the Ben-Hur in the silent film. So, but some of those kind of look alike, and when you don't see them for a lot of years, they kind of run together in your mind.
I am appalled at those remarks.
I don't know why you'd be appalled, sir. Okay, next book.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. We should have words, sir. I know you didn't, but I can see it in your beady little eyes. So, surprisingly enough, the reason that I started reading Jane Austen was because I read A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens in school. A Tale of Two Cities. That's what led me to Jane Austen. Isn't that weird?
Okay, I'm still trying to figure out the connection other than...
Well, because I couldn't remember who wrote A Tale of Two Cities after I read it in school. And so I was at the library looking for that author. And I ended up deciding that the author was Jane Austen for whatever reason. So I found Jane Austen and ended up, my first one actually was Persuasion. And then I read Pride and Prejudice. And this was the third one I read, and it's my favorite, Sense and Sensibility. This is my favorite one.
So, what edition is that, first of all? I'm curious.
What edition?
Yeah. Like, what's the publisher?
It's a book club edition.
Oh, okay.
Book club, New York. Book of the Month Club, New York.
Okay. And it's signed. It's signed.
Sure, we'll go with that. They had her down to a studio there, and they had her sign these. That's what happened. Yeah. So yeah, anyways, really good. And I might need a little romance while I'm by myself on that island. So this has it. Beautiful writing. No detestable characters at all. Cat got your tongue?
Yeah, well, I kind of think I know what you're referring to. At the time that this is being recorded, yeah. I made a critical, a very detailed critical criticism of Jane Austen as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
When did you first read it, though?
When I was 14.
Okay. Have you read it since then?
Many times, yes.
Now, how much time between the first time and the next time that you read it?
Oh, it's probably all the times are probably 3 to 5 years apart. I've read it like 5 times, so about 3 to 5 years apart. And I actually haven't read this for probably 8 years, actually. So I'm due for a reread.
So when you first read it the first time, you mentioned romance. Did you see a certain thing in it the first time, and then when you read it again, did you see other things in it, or did you see the same book again?
You know what? It seemed the same to me, really. It really did. The first time I read it, but I also think once you read something and then you read it a second time and you're still young, it almost makes an imprint in your brain, and it would have to have a lot of years pass before you would maybe change your opinion. At least that's what I feel like has happened with Sense and Sensibility for me, because the first time I read this, I was super into the interaction between Willoughby and Marianne, and but when I read it,
I thought she was with the professor. What's she doing in there?
Oh gosh, you dork! I'm so sure. Well, I was super into Marianne and Willoughby until I was like, let's see, I reread it that last time when I was 30-something. So no, that was not the last time I read it. But when I was 30-something was when I actually switched to Eleanor and Mr. Ferris. What is his first name? Edward. Gosh, how could I forget the names? Edward and Eleanor was actually more interesting to me when I reread it in my 30s. So, but my favorite character of all time is in this book, my literary crush of literary crushes, which is Colonel Brandon. I am in love with Colonel Brandon, and I compare every man I date to Colonel Brandon.
Okay. Poor guys.
Do what?
Poor dates that you're going on. Poor. I have sympathy for them. I have sympathy for them.
Yeah, none of them can live up to Colonel Brandon, or Alan Rickman for that matter.
It was just the whole thing, because I was I was anywhere from 18 to early 20s when I read all of Jane Austen and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it a certain way, and the video that we're talking about here, and that was just earlier actually this week, but or maybe last week, I can't remember. Anyway, it is interesting because I do I'm currently into rereading tons of stuff, like 80% of rereading.
Are you going to reread any Jane Austen?
I will. Yeah, I will.
Well,
And
you should definitely do Sense and Sensibility because, even though it's essentially a love story between a few characters, it really covers a lot more ground than that. I mean, I'm not like a critical reader. I don't sit around contemplating all the in-depth implications of books very often, but there's a lot of implications that have to do with families and your relationships with your family members and things like that. And also, there are feminist issues being addressed in that book as well. But, I don't read it for that. I read it for the good story and the good writing.
yeah, well, the thing is, it is part of the canon, the the English canon, and
Mhm.
some people would say, the canon should be thrown away, but there are reasons that they're in there. And
Right.
see, the thing is, and that's why I think rereading stuff is so important, because
Mhm.
even if you don't like something, however, of that list of authors, I've reread one of them recently,
Mhm.
and it only deepened my dislike for the style of writing for it. Not for the story or anything else, it's just the style of the author.
Well, is it the Victorian style as in general, or is it her particular way of writing?
No, it was. I had no problem with the way of writing. I guess. See, when I read it, all I saw was the love story. That's all I remember seeing. I didn't see anything else, and I
Mhm.
just thought that, and that's why I used the word. I thought it was trite and airheaded and nothing else, and because that's all I saw. But I've now, after years and other rereading, I realized that I'm sure there's more into it. And even if I don't, it doesn't turn out to be a favorite book or a favorite author, I'm
Right.
sure there's going to be stuff in there that I will enjoy
Yeah.
regardless.
Well,
But yeah, the Victorian, I do like Victorian, but the strange thing is, reading her and the Bronte sisters totally turned me off Victorian sort of style, like, and everything after. And I went to the French 19th century writers for decades, literally. I still read some Dickens, but nothing else. So that
you
was
know,
bad. That was bad.
I'm trying to think if anything has done that to me, and I don't think it has. But I will tell you what I have learned about myself is I don't really like Charles Dickens. I am not a Dickens fan. I know, right? Like people like you should see the reaction when I say I don't like Charles Dickens, but I don't. I just don't. I don't like him. I liked A Tale of Two Cities. It was really, really good. And I love A Christmas Carol, but I don't read it anymore because I'm burnt out on it. But I didn't like Oliver Twist. I didn't like uh I'm drawing a blank. There was one other book of his that I read that I absolutely did not like.
David
And then
Copperfield.
oh, it was David Copperfield. Didn't like that one at all. And after that, I was kind of turned off of Charles Dickens. I was like, I don't want to read anymore.
Yeah, and well, yeah. Well, the thing is, you've read Christmas Carol since then, so
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Christmas
Otherwise,
Carol I've read like probably every other year
yeah,
since I was in high school, probably.
yeah, because I was going to suggest that something like that. You read a Dickens book that I pick for you, and then I read a Jane Austen. But you've been reading him in some
Right.
form since then, so that won't work. We'll have to
Yeah.
figure out something else then maybe we can swap there.
Yeah. Sounds like a good plan.
Nah, so where are we at? That was number 2 or
Hold
3.
on. Okay. Sorry. I just need oh well, we're on book 4 actually.
Oh, book 4. Okay, that's how much attention I'm paying.
Well, I just know because I have them right in front of me so I can count. All right, so book number 4 is a Frankenstein, specifically this edition of it because it has both the original 1818 version and her rewritten and republished 1831 version. And for the record, the 1818 version is the better version, and I will hear no arguments on it.
I actually won't. I won't argue about that. At all.
Well, yeah, but this is like probably one of my top 2 favorite books of all time. I absolutely love Frankenstein. I love the story. I love all of the philosophical implications in it. This is one of the few books that I did walk away with like thoughts of philosophy and a person's relationship to God or their lack of relationship to God, and why they believe the way they do and how they come to those conclusions, and a bunch of things I walked away from this book thinking about. And the writing, beautiful. Again, it's like reading poetry. The writing is so incredible. I just absolutely love it. So I wouldn't want to be stranded anywhere without this book.
Not bad for 18, 19-year-old, when she started writing it, eh?
I don't remember how old she was when she wrote this, but she'd been writing pretty much her entire life. I mean, either both of her parents were a writer or her mother was a writer, but they were feminists. You know what I mean? Shelley was a feminist, and actually she believed in polyamory, her and her husband, even though they were married and devoted to each other. They both, well, I shouldn't say both. He slept with other women more than she slept with other men, from what the historians have said. Like, they only have so many resources to draw upon, but they believed in polyamory and all kinds of stuff. So they were really radical for their day.
Well, the thing is, she had a very, very strange, for the time, strange upbringing for anyone, and especially for a woman or a young girl, because her father, Godwin,
don't remember his name. Don't ask me. My memory's terrible.
Her name is Godwin. Their first name is just slipped for me. But over at the house, there'd be scientists, chemists. She would go to lectures. She read all this stuff, that most people never read, but definitely not women at the time. And it was just quite interesting that, and at that age to be able to do that. And as I was saying before this, that they're sort of, those are the published versions as far as I know, but there's sort of other versions of it because they got the manuscript, because Percy, her husband, stuck his oar in and made changes and stuff like that, and written changes. And there is a really, really neat book that's been taken from that, where the author has gone through meticulously, the author of this or the editor, and found out the passages that were added or changed by Percy.
By Percy? Oh.
Yeah, and then so in essence, you could read it the way he originally wrote it. In many ways, you could read it that way without his interpolations and things done. So it's kind of nice. And as I was saying, there is a published facsimile of the manuscript, and I would love to have that, but it was a limited edition. Like, just way too expensive.
Yeah. Well, so, just in case.
Yeah. Sorry,
what?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
A surprising number of people actually don't know that Mary Shelley rewrote Frankenstein later on and republished it. So, and a lot of the books don't tell you which version you're reading, but one of the ways you can tell if you're reading the 1818 version is that it will have this phrase in front of it, which is, "Did I request thee, maker, from my clay to mold me man? Did I solicit thee from darkness to promote me?" And that is a quote from Paradise Lost. And she put that in the front of the original 1818 version. So if it has that, you know which version you're reading. And this was left out of the rewrite. So,
well, I think now, like the more recent Penguin and the Oxford World Classics do state, and they both publish both versions. I think they do reprint.
They may. It's been several years since I've looked for a copy. I found this one, I don't know, a few years ago, and I really liked it. It's nice and floppy, you know what I mean? And I can mark it up real easily and stuff. So. And
if you're like, I'm with stuff like this, and with I Am Legend talking about movies. Are there any film versions, or have you seen any of the film versions of Frankenstein?
Yeah. I've seen some film versions of Frankenstein. The one that I remember seeing, the one that stands out in my memory the most is a spoof on Frankenstein, and that's with Gene Wilder called Young Frankenstein.
That is brilliant, but yes, that is brilliant.
I love that movie. Wait
a minute. No, it's Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Frankenstein. Yeah, right. But there was an older one that I watched I mean, I liked it when I watched it, but at the time I had not yet read the book. So then when I read the book, I was irritated that they keep making all this Frankenstein stuff that doesn't have anything to do with the novel. But it was like, where the Victor Frankenstein is this mad scientist, and it's really old, and he's got the lab, you know what I mean, with all of the big,
It's probably
electric, Tesla-ish stuff going on in the room and everything.
That'd be the year 1932, I think it is, Universal, or 31,
Yeah.
Universal one, where they censored it in a couple places, where he turns and goes, "By God, I know what it feels like to be God."
God.
After the monster comes alive, and then another one that they made fun of it in the Young Frankenstein, where he's with the little girl at the pond, and where he throws her into the pond, and they cut that out. They all of a sudden cut to the father carrying her wet body into the square. And it was only returned, I think, in the 60s or 70s. Those pieces, or maybe even later, they were only put back into the film.
Well, in the 1930s version, if he turns and says, "I know what it feels like to be God," or whatever, that was absolutely not in the book. That's not in the novel.
No. But it was.
That was in the novel.
Yeah, but it was still bad enough that they thought that they need to cut it out. But it's. I love that version, and I love Young Frankenstein. There was a new series that was done somewhere with Sean Bean. I'm not sure if it was just, I can't remember. It wasn't just Frankenstein, but it was something that was more recent, like within the last decade, which was interesting. It was an interesting interpretation, not so much about like from the book, but it's about creating this, because Mary Shelley is a character in it, and she has written the book, but it's based on truth. It's a really neat thing.
Familiar. I may have seen an advertisement for that, because that sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think they did 2 series. But you've also read a pastiche type thing that Mrs. did, and I like digressing here a little bit occasionally, and that I want to tell just a little bit about that, because some people, if they don't know about it, I didn't know about it until you told me, and I want to read.
It's called The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, and it's by Kirsten White. And it is told from the point of view of Elizabeth Frankenstein, and it starts out when they're children and they are growing up together. And she parallels Frankenstein perfectly. All of the events that take place in Frankenstein take place in The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, only from Elizabeth's point of view. And she even finds a way to cleverly explain the differences in the 2 versions that Mary Shelley wrote. Like, she explains away the differences. Like, for example, one of the differences was in the original version, Elizabeth is Victor's cousin, because, people married their cousins all the time back then. And in the rewrite, she changed Elizabeth to being a ward of the family. She was not related. And so she explains that. And there's some other things in there that aren't coming to mind right away that she explains, and she fills in a lot of blanks that are completely believable, like what Victor was doing when he was away at school, and how he was experimenting with creating a person, and it was just so well done. I don't want to give anything away in case people want to read it, but it's definitely fabulous. It was a 5-star read. The only complaint that I had about that book was the very end, like the last 40 pages or so. There's like a terrible event that takes place, which I know some people haven't read Frankenstein that I have spoken to through BookTube, so I don't want to say what the terrible thing is, even though it's a classic and everybody, conceivably should know. But the Frankenstein's monster does this terrible thing, and in the book, when he does the terrible thing, it then strays away from the Frankenstein book. And it's only about 40 pages. And I didn't like what she did with that 40 pages, but I was able to happily ignore it since it was only 40 pages. And the rest of the book makes it 100% worth reading. The rest of it is 5 stars. I actually rated it 4 stars because of that ending, but all the way up to that point, amazing and perfect.
Yeah, there's many other TV versions. That's interesting, and I didn't realize about that. It talks about his student days, because that's
Yeah.
actually in one. I'm not sure if I can't remember now if it's in the first Hammer version of it, but in one of the Hammer versions, they've got him at school, doing
Oh,
this and beginning his experiments,
yeah.
basically getting expelled, if I remember right, and then there was the series within the last decade, I don't know when, but called Penny Dreadful. And
Mhm.
Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein is a character there. And, they go into some background, which is quite interesting. It's a really interesting series because they do pull stuff from the Penny Dreadfuls. And then the other thing, there was a 1970s TV series or a TV film with Michael Sarrazin, which I thought was a really good um, adaptation of it, because they it was more truthful to the book, I think, not fully but more truthful, and then
Mhm.
I try to stay away from the called Mary Shelley's Frankenstein with Robert De Niro as the monster. enough
Yeah.
enough said.
Yeah, I saw that actually. I also saw the one with Sting playing Victor Frankenstein. I'd forgotten about those other movies.
Yeah.
The one with Sting actually was pretty good, although it doesn't really follow the novel. It's kind of its own thing, but it was really good as well.
Yeah, the 30s, even though the Universal one isn't even close to the book in so many ways. It's so great. And then The Bride of Frankenstein, the second
Yes.
one, is just so fabulous with Elsa Lanchester and the hair.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, it's just great, but there's so much from it, and I wouldn't doubt that there's way more books that are written sort of pastiches from it, because I knew there's something that came out I remember seeing. I had it, but I never read it. It was the diaries of Dr. Frankenstein it was purported that these were discovered, the diaries.
Oh.
And, it looked kind of interesting, but I'm sure there's all sorts of stuff like there
Oh
is
yeah,
with,
there's tons of novels that are based on Frankenstein lore. So yeah, lots of it.
but that one sounds really neat though, the one you're talking about.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. I would definitely recommend that to anybody who has read Frankenstein and enjoyed it. They will really love seeing what she's done, how she fits that in so perfectly. It was quite amazing, I thought, and very cleverly done.
okay. So what number are we up to now? I've
Okay,
lost
we're up to book five. We're up to book five.
Getting close, getting close.
Okay, so the next one is The Anomaly by Michael Rudker. So this book, it's technically horror, and there are some horror moments, but it also is sci-fi-ish. Like it's not really sci-fi, but it has a science fiction premise. And it is about a group of people who produce a YouTube channel where they go out and they look for legendary or mythological objects and places and see if they can find them or find any sign of them. So one of the things they go after is this cave, and it's a real cave. It's a real cave in real life. And there's like this stone. Actually, let me see if I can find a picture of it in here. So I won't take too long looking for it, but if I can, I should have marked this ahead of time. See this, I never prepare for anything. Oh gosh, where's that stone at? Well, I won't spend a bunch of time here looking for it, but oh, here it is. I found it. Okay, so here's the picture. This is a real stone. This is a real thing that you can see. Okay, so that stone is supposed to be a depiction of the things taking place inside of this legendary cave that nobody has been able to find except for one man who came out and said he'd never reveal the location. Nobody should go there, but that he had found it. So this group of YouTubers go there to see if they can find it, and they find it, and they enter it, and a lot of not good things happen, and people die in very unpleasant ways. But it's not super graphic or super gory. But the thing that I liked about this book were the friendships. I don't get into stories that revolve around friendships I don't really have a good explanation for that. The only like sort of friendship story that I was into was Lord of the Rings. And there was another one by Grady Hendrix called My Best Friend's Exorcism that was also a friendship story, and I really liked that one as well. So yeah, but this group of YouTubers, they're close friends, and they have very unique relationships with each other. And when they enter this cave, their relationships really become refined, and they end up, opening up, with a lot of honesty and stuff. And you really get to see where, when you first are introduced to them, there's a lot of snarkiness happening and stuff like, and sarcasm. And you think that maybe some of them don't like each other very much, but when they're in this cave, they really go to great lengths to help each other and to get through the situation that they're in. And it's funny. It's also funny. The humor is sort of sarcastic and funny humor, and I really liked that a lot. And the characters just grow so much. Like, their relationships with each other grow a lot in this book. And I just thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was just so well done. And I actually should reread this because I have a lot of tabs in this one, and I don't even remember what all of my individual praises were for this book. So I really should reread it and do it, and make new notes about it. So yeah, I should read, because I've only read it the one time. I read it like 3 years ago. So, yeah.
Is that the one you were telling me about? Because does it have anything to do with like an older civilization or civilization in living under the earth or in the earth?
Not really, but I hesitate to say anything because if somebody reads it, I don't want to spoil it. Let me see if I can describe it without giving anything away. So what's in the cave is something that is as old as the earth, and it's something that is created for a single purpose, and once it serves its purpose, or they serve their purpose, then they are sort of unmade or disintegrate or whatever you want to call it, until they are needed again. So that's the best I can do without giving anything away.
Yeah, no, it did, because I remember you telling me something, and it must have been this one, because the first thing I was thinking about, and I if you remember what I said, is something called the Shaver Mystery, that was started in Amazing Stories magazine in the 40s, I think. And
this seems like a familiar conversation. I think we've had this conversation.
Yeah, because I was thinking of that, because it's kind of a weird thing. This guy wrote in a letter, and the editor grabbed a hold of it, and it went into UFO stuff. And it's like, ancient civilization living inside the earth, and they've left. Like, it's all weird, but it just seemed the things that you had told me, maybe a little more detail, that made me think of that. But it now doesn't sound like it's part of it, but. But it was interesting. But again, you're saying that, I think you said that they were taking some real stories that are around, and then just sort of mashing them together in some ways.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And he kind of made it into his own thing. And he even did this book as if it were part of the Anomaly Files, because it's actually supposed to be a series. There is a second book that I own, but I haven't read it yet. He turns it into like a file. So there's pictures in here and written text documents in here. I'll just give you an example, as if this were a real file, as if this were part of the file. So all these pictures and stuff that I'm showing you are part of the file that you're supposed to be reading.
Okay.
There's one. And then there's documents and fake news articles and real news articles that he's put in this book to make it seem like because he can makes it fit into the narrative, which I thought was really cool. I'm gonna see if I can find a news article.
Well, he probably has put in stuff about the Shaver Mystery. Then I bet there is something in there.
Because when we talked about it, I remember you were telling me something about that, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's in the book. That's in this book."
Yeah, but that, like you're saying, it would give too much away, I think, to talk about that. But yeah, no, it just made me interesting, because that'll be something that some people like. There's a few my subscribers that like the rabbit holes that to go down. So there's a rabbit hole, everybody. The Shaver Mystery. You may not come back, though.
Yeah. Okay, and then the next book that I shall take, you will not be surprised here at all, Shawn, is volume 2 of the Essential Hal Clement, which are short stories, short fiction by Hal Clement. I'm definitely not going to be on an island without having my guy Hal along with me, for sure. So.
Yeah, well, it's like, I always thought it was an author by the name of Stubbs you liked a lot,
Well, very funny. Which, in case people, like, it's surprising how many people don't know who Hal Clement is. Seriously, like, I talked about him in my last video, and another booktuber that I watch commented, well, I've never even heard of Hal Clement. I'm going to add him to my list. So, yeah, I definitely, I can't.
Well, you would have really screwed up people if you started talking about Harry Stubbs.
Yeah, which is his real name for people who are watching. Hal Clement is his pseudonym, and Harry Stubbs was his real name. So yeah, you know what? I probably should have saved this book for last, shouldn't I have?
Yeah, well, we can come back to it, definitely.
Yeah, we'll come back to it.
That's why we won't talk too much just a moment about it. We'll move on to the next one, and then
we'll circle back. Yeah. Okay, so the next book that I would take with me is the Hard SF Renaissance, which is an anthology, of course, of hard science fiction, because I like hard science fiction best. So, and this is a really nice thick one too. So this would definitely go along. I don't know who some of the authors here are. Paul Anderson, Stephen Baxter, David Brin, Ted Chiang, Arthur C. Clarke, Greg Egan, Joe Haldeman, Nancy Kress, Alistair Reynolds, Kim Stanley Robinson, Bruce Sterling, and Vernon Vinge.
Yeah.
And those are the names listed on the cover. There are, of course, more authors than that, but yeah.
More. Yeah. Sadly, if I remember right, Clifford Simak's not in there because he's not really a hard science fiction writer.
Yeah. Well, not everybody can be as cool as Hal Clement,
You should say who the editors are.
Oh, right. So the editors are David G. Hartwell and Catherine Kramer. And I actually do what?
No, go ahead.
I actually didn't even know about this anthology. But Scott Danielson and I have almost identical science fiction tastes. Like, if he likes a book, I'm going to like it most likely, and vice versa. So he actually sent me this book and said, here, you're going to love this. And he is right. I haven't read it all. I've just read a handful of things out of here. But yeah, everything I read was fantastic.
I'm trying to remember there it is. The Ascent of Wonder is a companion one that definitely should go with that.
Is it hard science fiction?
More or less, yeah. Well, it's more of a there's hard science fiction in it, but it's more showing the ascent of science fiction, like a more like I say, it gives a more rounded, I guess, thing of science fiction with a lot of hard science fiction as well. But David Hartwell, if anybody's interested in horror, he's done a great horror, dark something. I can't even remember what the name of it is. People will know, but you just put his name in and you can find all sorts of ones. But yeah, what's like, I can't remember now. Is this chronological? I'll open up the index. I'm curious since you have it there. Not index, content. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. Chronological in which way?
When the stories were written. Like, what's the first? And
that's what I'm looking. No, it's not chronological because the first author is Paul McAuley, and Arthur C. Clarke definitely wrote before that guy did.
Yeah, Paul McAuley. He's sort of he was big in the '80s, like an English. I think he's a British writer, an English writer, but he never really made it that big for some reason.
Oh. And there's a Hal Clement in here, by the way. I'm just saying, It's Hal Clement's Exchange Rate, which is one I have not read. So
there's a lot of stuff that I don't have that, but there's a lot of stuff in there that I haven't read because there's new stuff, that's post 1965, And I don't know,
Yeah.
why.
And we know you can't have that. You just definitely can't have that. Okay, and the last book that I'm taking with me, I have never read. So this is my wild card of the bunch. It's me taking a chance. So this way I have one thing that I haven't read, but it's a pretty good guess that I'm gonna love it. It's a bind up of the Amber Chronicles or an omnibus, whichever you prefer. I call everything a bind up. It's all the Amber Chronicles in one volume by Roger Zelazny, and I've never read this, but I mean it's Roger Zelazny. I figured this is a pretty safe bet, so because I do like Roger Zelazny, so yeah, that would be my last. It's a fantasy. I don't know anything about it other than it is a fantasy because I don't want to know anything about it. I want to go into this blind. Because that is the only way to reach Roger Zelazny, so that you can walk away having absolutely no idea what you just read.
Yeah, I haven't read the whole series, because it's fantasy, so that's another thing that's not, I've never really delved too much into fantasy.
Yeah.
But, Narnia is the only thing that I could say. It's.
Yeah. I didn't like it.
What?
I didn't like the Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, but that's how I would say, if anybody wanted it characterized, it's that type of thing. But it's not the same. Like from what I remember, it's not even close to the same. But it's that kind of thing. Who's public? Is that again? No, that's not Tor. That looks like.
Oh, EOS. What is that? Oh, Avon EOS.
Oh yeah, Avon. Yeah, okay. But yeah, it's quite. They're short books, but that must be close to 1,000 pages.
Yeah, I've got all the books separated by blue tabs here, so they're not long books individually.
Oh.
And this is 1,258 pages, and it literally goes like there's no end pages or nothing. Like the very last page is the last page of the story. So. Oh yeah, and this is I figured it'll take me a little minute to get through this one on that desert island. Oh gosh, I hope
there's no use me saying anything, because if I say anything, it'll spoil it for you. So I can't say anything about that one.
Oh yeah, don't say anything. I don't want to know. I want to go in blind. I have realized that Roger Zelazny, you don't know what he's doing half the time, but I actually really enjoy that about him. I walk in and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but it's really cool. Okay, what do you want next, Sean?
Music. If you finish, we'll finish the book. So music.
Okay, so the album I chose to bring with me is Counting Crows, August and Everything After, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest albums ever put out. Every single solitary song on this album is fantastic. I don't even have a favorite song on here because they're all so good. And I listened to this over and over and over throughout all of my 20s.
Well, for people to name some of the songs, because people they'll recognize them if they may not connect it to the name.
So I'm not for sure on which ones were the radio hits, because I've listened to this so many times I don't remember what was radio hit, but I think that Mr. Jones was a radio hit. I feel like strongly that was a radio hit.
Yeah.
And then let's see, what else might have been a radio hit? Rain King could have been a radio hit. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that one I'm not sure of.
I'm not sure. But here are the songs, if you can read them.
Nope.
Okay. So we've got Omaha, Mr. Jones, Perfect Blue Buildings, Anna Begins, Time and Time Again, Rain King, Sullivan Street, Ghost Train, Raining in Baltimore. Actually, you know what? I do have a favorite song on this album, and it is Raining in Baltimore. That's the best song on here, in my opinion. And then the last song is A Murder of Crows. Or, I mean, A Murder of One.
Yeah, I'm not sure what other ones. Definitely Mr. Jones is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought I'd recognize what was. But yeah, I didn't I don't recognize any other.
There's another song that was a radio hit that I can remember. It was The Long December, but that wasn't on this album. This is on their second album, Recovering the Satellites.
Yeah. I remember that one, and that's where I was thinking it might have been on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you also remember that there's no electricity on the island, right?
No, I forgot.
No, it's, as I say, there's a magical island. It's a magical island, and that way somehow a CD will play.
There you go.
But e-readers, but e-readers will not work.
That's right. CD players will, but e-readers won't.
Yeah. Well, you don't need a player. It just plays by itself.
Oh, even better. Oh, gosh. Okay. Are we ready for the luxury item?
I'm not sure if I'm ready, but yes, go ahead.
So I debated about my luxury item. I debated if I was going to choose something that you could actually get you from out of it on a desert island and be practical, or if I was going to take something, since this is all imaginary anyway, I might as well take like the thing that I would emotionally want to take with me to the island. So that's what I went with. And I would take this little red monkey with no tail. Her name is Monkey Chi. And she was a gift from, I believe, my grandfather when I was 3 years old. And I slept with her all the way until I was 12. And when I was 12 years old, I decided that I was too old to sleep with a stuffed animal. So then I retired her to my headboard. And she sat in my headboard all the times that I had a headboard. And then when I quit having headboards, I would set her on a shelf someplace around my room, and that's where she stays. She's on a shelf in my room to this very day. All of my adult life, she has been watching over me. So if I'm going to be on a desert island, I need to have my little guardian angel with me, sitting up in a tree or something, looking down on me.
Isn't she in videos as well?
In one of my videos, you mean?
All of them. Don't you have? Isn't that a little symbol thing?
No, that symbol thing is. I don't think you can see it from here. Hold on, let me. That's okay. You see that little red thing on the shelf right there?
Yeah.
That's what you see in my. That's what you see in my thumbnails. That is actually a paper mache dragon that my son made when he was in the 6th grade. And because he has absolutely zero artistic ability of any kind, it does not look anything like a dragon. But I think it's absolutely marvelous. And I told him he was going to throw it away. He wanted to blow it up with fireworks. I told him he couldn't. I wanted to keep it because I think it's great. So it's been sitting on my bookshelves ever since then.
Well, it was red, so I just assumed it was that. I assumed it was that because I can't see properly. So
Monkey Chi just gave you a kiss, Sean.
I definitely will have to wash later.
Oh, no.
How old were you when you said you got that?
I was 3 when I got her.
So for 9 years, you slept.
Yeah, that's
most like teddy bears and stuff like that kids have. They they're missing eyes, they're missing feet, that stuffings.
Well, she's missing stuff. She's missing stuff. You just don't know it. She used to have a little yellow dress, and who knows where the dress went. And then she had a little loop on her head, like you could hang her on something. And I cut that off a long time ago because I didn't think she needed to have a loop on her head. And then the other thing is, she sucks her thumb too, by the way. Check it out now. And the other thing is, like, look at her thumbs. Can you see the chewed up thumb there?
Yeah.
That is from me when I was little. I used to chew on her thumbs. Those are my teeth marks. Oh, yeah. But yeah, she is a really good kid. Oh, and also her fur used to be real fluffy and soft. Now it's like totally matted down.
Yeah, that's the thing. Without knowing all that, it looks in perfect condition, like, without knowing any of that.
Right. But yeah, she's not in perfect condition compared to what she was, but she's in remarkably good condition, which is a testament to how much better things were made in 1975. Well, when I was 3, so 77 compared to now,
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, well, as I say, what was I going to say? Sorry, I lost track there. The kisses threw me there, so I've gotten so embarrassed by that. But yeah, we're finished everything now. What is upcoming on your channel? Yeah,
we got to go back to How for the Holidays.
Yeah, tell me about Harry.
About Harry, okay. So Hal Clement does not have any buzz on YouTube ever. Nobody talks about Hal. Nobody reads his books. I mean, people make these lists of all the great science fiction writers of all time, and Hal Clement was a great science fiction writer, and in my opinion, the best. Nobody talks about him ever. And so I'm trying to get some buzz going for Hal. So I decided to do an event and call it How for the Holidays, and it's going to take place over November, December, and January. And there are no prompts or anything like that, but you just read 2 Hal Clement books each of those months. And then, of course, if you're a YouTuber, you can get on and do videos about them. But my point here is just trying to get some buzz going for Hal, trying to get people to read Hal, and just to see how great his writing is, how his imagination works. It's just, he's amazing.
Yeah, he lived. When did he die? He lived into the
the 80s, I think. Was it? I don't know. I think so.
Oh, that he lived into his 80s, or sorry?
No, I think he died in the 80s.
Oh, let me check. I must be mixing it up with somebody else.
I can easily be wrong because I don't want to think about Hal being dead.
Yeah, no, I think I got in my mind for some reason is A.E. Van Vogt. Let me just check. I got my phone here.
Okay.
It's Hal Clement, American fiction writer. 2003.
2003. Well, I was way off.
1922. Oh, October 29th. He died October 29th, 2003. So that's perfect as a jump off point for,
I see what you're saying.
For the Hal for the Holidays.
Commemoration, right? Yeah. You're right. That is a nice jump off point.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I thought for some reason, I don't know why in the back of my mind I thought he was. But yeah, so
I have not looked into all of his biography and stuff. I could have sworn he died in 1986 though, but I'm probably mixing him up with another author. But the only thing that I really know about him in real life was that he was a teacher, and I've even forgot what his degree was in. I did know that, but I've since forgotten it. But yeah, I don't want to think about Hal being dead. I wish he wasn't dead because he didn't write enough books. We just don't have enough books by Hal.
Yeah, he wrote a lot of science articles too that showed up in various publications.
Yeah,
yeah. You've got a few of those, or you're getting a few of those, aren't you?
No.
Well, you've got an edited thing about the moon.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I do. I forgot. Yeah, it's on my shelf up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot that I bought that.
No, I'm looking forward to
you remembered.
I'm looking forward to that because I haven't read Hal Clement again in probably, it could be almost 40 years, like somewhere between 30 and 40 years since I've read Hal Clement.
That's a shame. That's just a shame. And you're all obsessed with Clifford Simak, and he's not nearly as good of an author as Hal Clement.
And you want me to be, associated with this? Those are fighting words, lady.
Well, you did call Jane Austen trite.
That was a critical assessment.
Well, my critical assessment is that Clifford Simak is not nearly as good as Hal Clement.
I think we better stop here.
I know. I'll leave it.
Thank you, Brandy. This has been fun. I'm glad you came on and became a castaway. So
yeah, me too. It was really fun.
Yeah, and it'll be when everybody's hearing this, there's still time to do Hal for the holidays. There'll be a couple of weeks to get ready. So anyway, there's Ninja.
Yeah.
Is Ninja gonna get? Is he gonna appear on the island as well? Is he gonna? Because he's a ninja cat, so he's gonna.
That's right. As you point out, he is a ninja, so he'll just stealth his way through the portal and show up. So. catch fish for me.
Anyway, thank you, and thank you, BookTube, and we'll see you next time.